Okay, good morning. I said morning. It is currently just after 5 to 6. So I've just finished my morning cardio, the way I always do. So this is part 2 of a little series I'm doing. Just a kind of introduction to my channel, a little bit about me. Now, in the first part, I talked about my background, sort of family history and all that kind of stuff. Now I'm going to move on to injuries. Now, injuries seems to be a key topic for quite a few of you. I've had a lot of inquiries recently regarding injuries. Now, I have been training a very long time. Been training over 30 years now. And I have had almost every injury feasible. Nowadays, I'm a reasonably smart trainer. As a younger man, I was the original ego lifter. When I say ego lifter, I was just a very keen lifter. I had a lot of strength, I had a lot of testosterone, and I was just young and hungry to lift, and I just didn't know any better. I suffered more than my fair share of injuries. It sort of goes with the territory sometimes when you move pretty heavy poundages, but you know, hopefully by the end of this video, some of you guys can maybe pick up a couple of tips from this old man and save yourself a little bit of pain and discomfort. So let me just start. What kind of injuries have I had over the years? I'll start with broken bones. I've broken 2 fingers. One of them was a compound fracture. If you look at this finger, this one right here, it doesn't actually straighten. That's what it's meant to look like. Broke it in 4 places, put the bone through here and cut the tendon. So this finger basically is pretty useless. I broke the end of this finger. I broke 2 big toes, dropping weights on them. I broke my little toe, dropping a bench on it. Oh, so I think that's breaks. What have we had now? Ooh, tears. I had a pec tear. I tore this pec. Aesthetically, it doesn't look too bad, but I tore that pec. I had a very minor tear in my hamstring. That wasn't too bad. That was a very minor tear in my hamstring. What else have I had? Tore my rotary cuff, tore my left rotary cuff in 2020 during lockdown. What else? Oh, and my lower back. I've slipped a disc more times than you can imagine. I've slipped a disc 3 or 4 times. I've got a permanent bulging disc as well. And on top of that, you have all your usual aches and pains and niggles and tendinitis and all of that. So you can see I've had more than my fair share. But what I can say to you guys is there is hope. Hopefully those of you who tune into my channel can see I'm 46 years of age and I'm still going strong, and I still move like respectable poundages, and this is despite all of the injuries I've had. So whatever happens to you, where there's a will, there's a way. It just a bit of smart training, bit of rehabilitation, training around the injury, and you can move on. I'm not saying it'll be perfect. There will be discomfort, of course. But if you want to train, you'll be able to train, and you can restore the majority of your strength. So where do I start? Let's start with pec tears, because I've had quite a few of you guys talking to me recently about pec tears. So off the top of my head, there was KG and a couple of others asking me about pec tears. I know, I think you'd torn your pec, was it 7 months ago, or just had surgery 7 months ago. So I feel your pain, brother. So, you know, I hope you get better soon, and all of you guys. And I know it can be a bit disheartening when, you know, once upon a time you were moving some decent poundages, and then all of a sudden it's, you know, it can go in a flash, it can go in the blink of an eye. So I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt. So probably a little over 15 years ago now, I managed to tear my pec. At the time, I'd fallen in love with bench press. I was starting to move some pretty good poundages, well over 200 kilos. I was probably benching around 230 kilos at the time, thereabouts. And like I said, I was the original meathead. I was the original ego lifter. And when it came to moving weights, I just had to move weight. So if I wasn't benching at least 200 kilos every single chest workout, I hadn't had a workout. What's the point of life? That was very much my attitude at the time, to be honest with you. And on this particular day, warm-ups just weren't going right. It just didn't feel right. Ordinarily, I go up, depending on a day, a plate at a time. So 1 plate, 2 plate, 3 plate, 4 plate. And then when I was getting towards maximal poundages, because at the time, like I said, my bench was a little over 220, 230, something like that. I'd then go 4.5 plates, so like 200 kilos, and then 220, and then whatever I'd got. However, on this day, things just weren't warming up properly. Something just wasn't right. And I did my 1 plate, it moved. 2 plate, felt a bit stiff, didn't feel right. Put 3 plates on, and I did a set of 8 with it, and it was okay. But I was just getting pain and discomfort and tightness, and I just wasn't listening to my body. And I said, you know what, Mark, my version of being smart in those days was, I'll do another set. Don't go any heavier, just do another set, and then you throw on a bit more weight after. Well, this backfired. So I got up to my 3 plates, 1, 2, 3, did rep number 4, did rep number 5, bang. And those of you who've torn a muscle, it is a disgusting feeling. You feel like a bang and like a squelch. It's horrible. And that was my pec. I had a partial tear in my pec, right in here. There's a nice lump of scar tissue there. Somehow or other, managed to get it racked. Racked the one side and sort of the other side. No spotter, no nothing, because I'm just a brute. And that was me done. But I had no idea what was going on. In fact, this was over 15 years ago. It's probably closer to 20 than 15 years ago, actually. I'm getting old. I was probably very late 20s. Probably about 16, 17 years ago now. I was probably about 29, 28, 29. And that was my pec done, and I had no idea what on earth was going on. It was just this incredible pain. And being the smart guy that I am, I decided, I was in agony. I'm going to try and do some biceps because, brain wasn't braining. And I picked up a dumbbell, and I was just in excruciating pain, and I had to leave the gym. So the road to recovery, it was awful. Fitness YouTube in those days was in its infancy, and I didn't really follow fitness YouTube. I watched bodybuilding DVDs. I read magazines, like bodybuilding magazines, and none of those things talked about rehab or anything like that. So I was stuck. So didn't know what to do. There were no experienced guys, or no one more experienced down the gym really than I was at the time, to sort of learn from an older lifter as into how to recover. And just protocols and things weren't really a thing back then. So it was a lot of trial and error. I found out very quickly I couldn't do anything. Bar work was a no-no for me. I couldn't do bar work. My range of motion was like non-existent. The whole area is very swollen. The bruising, it looks like you've been run over. The bruising was incredible. Like all across my chest, my deltoid, my bicep, everything. It was absolutely gross. But through a lot of trial and error, I managed to figure out that dumbbells were a must. I must also say part of the reason that I was injured was because I used to bench with quite a wide grip, and I used to bench with my elbows reasonably flared. Now, I do bench occasionally with flared elbows, but I'll do it deliberately. I'll do something called the guillotine press, which is up for upper chest. But for a standard heavy bench press, I do not recommend benching with flared elbows. I will flare my elbows a little more on dumbbells because I don't really go very heavy on dumbbells, because when you flare your elbows, admittedly, you do absolutely activate your pecs more, but you do kind of open yourself up to a little bit more in the way of injury. So I, first of all, got into dumbbells. Now, my left arm was fine. I could sort of put my arm where I wanted to go. My right arm, I had to really tuck it, and I had a very limited range of motion. I could probably only go about halfway down because it was just agonizing. And the very first pair of dumbbells I ever moved was literally 12 kilo dumbbells. That's where we're talking. I went from being a 230 kilo bencher to feeling excruciating pain moving 12 kilo dumbbells. So this is what we're talking about. And then I moved up to the 17s, and I genuinely remember this. I had a goal of bench pressing the 35 kilo dumbbells. That was a goal of mine. So eventually I gradually got the dumbbells closer and closer to my chest, to the point that they were more or less touching my chest. Like I said, my left arm, I just went through the motions. My right arm, I really had to modify. And I found through tucking my elbow in, it helped. Now, like I said, remember in those days, nowadays we all know about tucking our elbows because we just go on YouTube. In those days, there was none of that. So I just found out literally myself through trial and error. So first things first, I would recommend dumbbells and tucking your elbows in. However, I rushed to get back because I'm strong, or because, because I was young and keen and strong, I wanted to get back into the bench. I loved bench pressing. And I just managed to work back up to probably about 140. And then any time I started moving weight more than 140, I'd re-injure the area. And it was just starting again. So secondly, take your time coming back. I rushed back. I really did. And then those of you who've torn a pec know you always have like a lump of scar tissue, which is kind of gnarly and horrible. And I kept on like re-tearing the scar tissue. So something would go or whatever, and you'd get this like awful, it's a horrible feeling. And then next day I would have a bit of bruising. It wasn't a full tear, but I'd get a bit of bruising. This happened to me several times. And next thing I know, the best part of 2 years has passed. Like genuinely. As I said, I'd get up to maybe 140, 160, and my body just couldn't take it. It just couldn't take it, and I'd get injured. So I abandoned the flat bench for a while. And however, I could do low incline. And incline bench wasn't something I ever really spent much time invested in, really. We had a 45-degree fixed incline bar at the gym. And we had some adjustable benches, and I never used the adjustable benches. I do flat bench and I do the 45-degree incline. However, just through experimentation and frustration, I found that setting the adjustable bench up in a power rack and putting it probably at about 20-degree angle, for whatever reason, that angle didn't aggravate the pec tear very much. And it was really cool. And I actually slowly but surely managed to tuck my elbows in a little bit and get a bit more range of motion. I started using a little bit more weight, And I eventually got up to probably about 160 on the low incline, which was decent. So I was quite pleased with it. Considering I couldn't bench 160 flat, I managed to get 160 on the incline. But even so, it was like putting a plaster on a wound. It was still a problem. It was like bandaging the wound. It was still a problem. Now, at the time, the slingshot was just coming onto the scene. It was in its infancy. A guy called Mark Bell created this device called the slingshot, which is basically a bench press support. And the idea is that you're able to overload your bench press at the top. So it gives you some support at the bottom. You put this device over your arms, it goes across your chest, and it tucks your elbows in. You go down and then you kind of get a bit of a spring and you're able to lock out. And you're able to just simply overload at the top of the movement. However, and he initially invented it to help with shoulder injuries because he was an elite powerlifter. And, you know, him and a lot of his friends were battered. Because Mark Bell was from Westside Barbell. For those of you who follow powerlifting, he was originally from Westside Barbell and went and did his own thing. But he's a very clever guy, and he was absolutely massive on YouTube for quite a long time. He's a little quieter on the scene now, but if you ever get a chance, go and look him up. He's a very knowledgeable guy. So I took this device. I went and ordered one. It wasn't available over here. I did a mail order from America, and I got one of these devices, and I was like, you know what, let me give it a try. And it was an absolute godsend for me. I wore this device almost exclusively for every chest workout I did. And that would be like a hammer strength machine, a Swift machine, flat bench. It didn't work for dumbbells. It didn't work for dumbbells, so I'd always do dumbbells just without it on. But otherwise, I used to wear it for everything, for all of my chest workouts. And after a while, and when I say a while, I mean it was months and months and months, probably closer to a year, if I'm honest. I remember coming into the gym the one day and just feeling good. And I'd move around and I'd got range of motion and nothing hurt. And I just said, okay, let me just try benching without using it. And I did. And lo and behold, I managed to bench pain-free. And it probably wasn't smart, but I actually managed to work up to 180 kilos. And I had a spot. I got a guy from the gym to spot me, but I had a spot. And that was my first time benching without that on for a while. And I managed to work up to 180 kilos. I can't remember what it was for, like a single or a double. But I was like a lottery winner. I was so happy because I could bench press without pain, which was like amazing to me at the time. I could restore strength. I knew how to get strong. But the idea of not being scared of bench pressing was like, amazing to me. It really was. So I ended up basically, I'd still use the slingshot here and there because I tried to, it was a very humbling experience and I learned a lot. And I didn't want to do it again. I didn't want to go back again. So I just took my time. But the 4-plate was in the bag and I felt confident with the 4-plate. And within a few months, I was back to my original poundage of like 230 kilos, I think it was. And then after that, I actually managed to increase my bench. Because remember, I was still in my late 20s, early 30s, so you're still growing, you're still getting stronger. Within a year or so, I was hitting the kind of mid 250s to 260, which was just phenomenal. And I never dreamed of being able to do that. Now, it is something that you will live with, and you have to be very careful, and you have to be very intuitive and instinctive and listen to your body. If things don't feel right, stop is one of the best things I can say. when it comes to tears particularly. If things feel stiff, do something else. Iron and gravity will still be there. Go and do some bicep curls, go and do some squats, go and do whatever, do something else. Because I know you'll feel a bit ticked off at the time, oh, I didn't manage to bench today or whatever. But trust me, listening to that little instinctive voice in your head can save you months and months and years of pain. So yeah, learn from old man. So in terms of protocols, 1, restore the range of motion, find angles that work for you, take your time. And as I said, if you've got the ability to get yourself a slingshot or a Titan RAM or the equivalent. When you go onto a lot of these sites nowadays, I'm sure like Strength Shop, I'm sure they have their own versions. As I said, this was many years ago, and Slingshot was the only one around then, and the Titan RAM as well. I actually had both. And in fact, one of my younger cousins has got my Titan RAM because he had a nasty shoulder injury that really set him back on the bench press, and it's really brought him back. So he's using it as we speak. Okay. Rotary cuff. So 2020, lockdown training. I hadn't got my gym as we see it now fully built, but I got a garage gym. And I'd got a bit of equipment. I got an adjustable bench, a decent amount of weights. I'd got dumbbells up to 60s. And I was training with my wife. And I did a set with the 60s, and the adjustable bench that I got slipped and it jarred my shoulder. And again, I was a very experienced trainer by then, because as I said, this is 2020. So by then I'd been training for 25 years. So I stopped straight away. It had aggravated my shoulder. Excuse me. It had aggravated my shoulder quite nastily. And I stopped training at the time and left it. And I didn't do any pushing movements for about 2 weeks. I had a look at the adjustable bench. We all tightened it up and everything like that. It was a fault in the actual bench itself. There was something with it, but the thing is, it was lockdown. There was no equipment. Scalpers had bought everything, so I was just relying on this unreliable adjustable bench. That, it wasn't that great. Well, anyway, I left it for a couple of weeks, and then everything seemed to be okay. Guess what? I had another go using the 60s. Fine on the adjustable bench. Did my set, however many reps I did. And then a lot of the time when I do something heavier, I then do a bit of back off work with a lighter dumbbell. And I had a pair of 50s. So I was going to do a few sets with the 50s just to get a bit more blood and volume in there. And lo and behold, I threw the dumbbells up, and guess what? The bench slipped again. Except this time, it really hurt me, and it went pop, 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 and I felt a pop, pop, pop in the back of my shoulder. And I got the most agonizing pain you can imagine. And my arm was just like dead. The dumbbells, to be fair, the dumbbell just dropped on the ground. But my arm was like dead. I could not lift my arm up. I had to use my other arm to lift my arm up. And I'd torn my rotary cuff, which was crazy. I'd heard of torn rotary cuffs, but I'd never, had no idea what it felt like. It sucks. Don't do it. So unfortunately, this was lockdown. You couldn't get doctor's appointments. I had an online consultation. I can't remember if it was a phone or video call, and described the symptoms and found out that it was a torn rotary cuff, which I suspected because I went online straight away with my one good hand typing like a big gorilla, trying to find out what had gone. And it was my rotary cuff, and I'd torn, I forget how many muscles your rotary cuff has got, but I'd torn 3 of them because within a couple of days I had 3 black and blue stripes where the muscles had torn. Now, rotary cuff was excruciating. And again, that took me a very, very long time to recover from. Now, I was a lot smarter with my recovery then. I knew straight away dumbbells were the thing to do. And so the idea, once again, was restoring, resting when you need to rest, find angles that work for you. Ice was really, really good, just in terms of the pain. I also invested in a massage gun. I did lots of research online, went onto lots of physiotherapist sort of sites and things, and on YouTube, looking at rotary cuff injuries. And I just looked at exercises that they did and found a few trigger points and things. And because when you think of the rotary cuff, you think of it up here, but it's all in the back of your shoulder. So I found all these trigger points, and I actually, within a couple of days, managed to get my arm moving just through like trigger points and all that kind of stuff. It was excruciating, don't get me wrong, but I managed to. One of the best things I did as well was basically isolating my arm at night. I used to sleep on my left side. I say used to, I can't anymore. To this day, I still can't sleep on my left side. Because it just hurts a lot since tearing it. But what I used to do, because I move around quite a lot in my sleep, I'd always wake up in agony because I'd moved and hurt my arm. And I was doing this every single night. And remember, we recover when we rest, when we sleep. So I ended up having to put pillows by the side of me, and I'd literally have my arm on top of me, and I would have pillows like on my chest, and I'd almost like put it in a sling and isolate it. But over days and weeks, it was slowly but surely starting to knit itself back together. I took my time coming back. Bench press was excruciating. Although by then I didn't have the ego when it came to the bench press. I knew I was a strong bench presser. I knew it would eventually come back. So I wasn't fussed about it. I would literally do things like I would bench press 60 kilos and I would do it for time. I used to do like tempo reps for time. So I used to train very slowly. And let's say I would give myself 3 minutes to get as many reps with 60 kilos as I could, but with a relatively slow tempo and things like that. I'd got a bit of equipment, so I had like a Swiss bar, which again tucks you in, and a Swiss bar wasn't too bad. If I had anything where all my hands were like that, it hurt, whereas with the Swiss bar, my hands were like that. So that helped tremendously. Dips, I used to love them. They were out of the question for a long time. But dumbbells were my friend. I did a lot of dumbbell work, and that really helped. So take your time, tempo reps, anti-inflammatories, isolated at night. Okay, lower back. Now, again, as a younger man, I'm sure you guys who've been on here a while, you'll know what it's like. Particularly if you're someone that was, been training since the 90s or the 80s. I know some of you on here a little more experienced than I am. So I started in the mid-90s, and as I said, there was no internet. You used to learn from the big guys down the gym, or you'd look at a magazine and copy the pictures. That was pretty much it. So I was quite a strong deadlifter, and I'm not bad at deadlifting nowadays, but as a kid I was quite strong, but I used to lift with bad form, used to round my back. I was the original stiff leg deadlifter, not deliberately, but I just used to sort of bend over at the waist and pick it up. But you do that with enough weight, it catches up on with you. So I first slipped my disc in my very early 20s, so I'd been training probably about 5-6 years, and I again lifted in bad form, ignored the signs. Sciatica is your body's way of telling you it hurts. For me, it was like, oh, it's no pain, no gain. So I had all the pain and none of the gains. So, So yeah, I first slipped my disc in my early 20s, and again, it took me a long time to get over it. I've slipped it 3 or 4 times over the years, and it's something I live with to this day. I've got a permanent bulging disc. I was told in my late 20s, early 30s, I'd have to have spinal fusion surgery when I'm older. Well, those of you who've been on my channel, you know, don't always listen to doctors, because you guys probably saw me pulling over 400 kilos for reps recently. So, you know, it goes to, what I'm trying to say to you, there's hope. You can rehabilitate yourself. Decompression for me was the best thing I discovered. I did lots of trial and error. I had physiotherapy and it didn't do anything for me. The exercises they did just weren't appropriate for me. They may have worked for someone else, but it just wasn't suitable for me. And decompression, hanging off things. I got a pair of gravity boots, although they're very difficult to get into. But just opening up the spine, because you've got this, like your sciatic nerve is compressed and you just want to open it up. Weirdly, when I hurt my back, I can mostly still deadlift. It's anything to do with squatting, anything that really compresses the spine. I can hinge. I'm not saying big weights, but I can often hinge. But where mine is, it's my lower fifth vertebrae. When I had my scans and all that kind of stuff many years ago, it's my lower fifth vertebrae. So because it's right at the base of your spine, if I have anything pressing on it, I get the most excruciating pain you can imagine. But weirdly, hinging doesn't aggravate it anywhere near as much. So when I am feeling a bit tender, I avoid squats. I love squatting. I squat all the time. That's like the foundation of my leg workout. But you know, if I want to walk, I don't squat. Ice. A lot of the time, the whole area will be inflamed. So ice. I've got one of these ice blanket things, you know, like I have ice packs. I've got a larger one, they call it an ice blanket. And I'll throw a towel on top of it, throw the ice blanket on the bed, and then I lie on it. And it just numbs the area and it helps bringing the inflammation down. Heat does work as well, because what will often happen is you will have the areas like swollen and inflamed, but the area gets very tight, and a lot of that is muscular pain. So you'll often find that other areas compensate, because the human body is ingenious. It wants to survive, and it often survives by just getting tight. So if you want to loosen things up a little bit, hot baths, hot water bottle is also very, very useful as well. So ice, heat for the actual muscle area, anti-inflammatories. I'm not a huge painkiller fan, because I often find pain is your body's way of telling you do something wrong. But use them if you need to. But decompression was the one that really worked for me. Those of you who have been on my channel recently, because I live with a bad back, I tweaked my back doing a 396 farmers walk a couple of weeks ago. And I followed my own protocols, and I do like hanging leg raises, and just do like dead hangs and things like that for as long as my grip will hold out. And I did that for 2 or 3 days, and I was back to normal. It opened the area up. And sometimes things just pop and click back into place. You can just be lucky, and one day you wake up and you feel okay. But again, just take your time, and as soon as you are able to, get some strength back into the area. My spine is no doubt a mess. As I said to you guys, I was told by a very rude doctor that I'd probably have to have spinal fusion surgery when I'm older. Well, you know, to that guy, because he wasn't very helpful. He basically just told me to stop training. Okay, cool. But I did everything I could to strengthen the area. Bench supported rows, deadlifts, back extensions, like hyperextensions, things like that. Your spinal erector is like the muscle that runs along the top of the spine. Get that strong. Strong glutes are really important. Strong hips are really important. Now, I've never really invested a massive amount of time in like glute bridges and hip thrusts, but they do activate the area quite nicely. So yeah, right. I've got to go and get ready for work. So I'm going to leave it there for the time being. So hopefully that will have given you a couple of top tips and things. If you've got any more questions at all, I will gladly answer them either in the comments or I can do another video, whatever. So thank you as always to the new subscribers. Thank you to the old subscribers. You guys are an awesome bunch, and I've been on some wonderful interactions with you. So thank you very much. Full of strength, you the man. You gave me my first shout out the other day, so I really appreciate it, brother. So thank you. And I know a couple of your subs have come over to my page now, which is really nice to see. So thank you very much. I really genuinely appreciate it. So as we said, us old boys have got to stick together. But all of you guys, everyone on here, just a lovely community. So thank you very much for feeding this old man's ego and seeing what this lump likes to do in his back garden. Okay, anyway, you guys take care. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And I will speak to you soon.